It is about a feeling that the services sector, which fueled Indian economy, services sector which created not only jobs, but also created India's prowesses with the Fortune 1000 world over. Now, is that journey coming to an end, or is that journey only the beginning? My personal feeling is that the Servam story amplified, or in a way, that was a story that I answered to myself. The story that I answered to myself is when I hung my boots in 23 December, the story was, what next? And what next was the birth of Ionos. The birth of Ionos really was that we are now looking at the next generation services company. We are now looking at using AI as a tool. We are now looking at taking advantage of the tools that are available to us and learning how to take 275 billion or a 300 billion IT industry to 750 billion industry by 2035. And clearly, the answer lied in innovation. The answer lied in understanding what the customer wants. So when you design a B2B business, what do you design? You design because you are now learning to work in understanding the needs of that customer. It is, no longer about, number of people, number of billable hours, number of people hired. It is all about outcome. It is all about impact. And that's where I think when Ionos was born, it was based on building platforms. It was not about adding number of people. It was not about billable hours. And when you do platforms, what do you learn from platforms? For example, most of us have used a Zomato or a Swiggy. Now, is Zomato or a Swiggy a logistics company? Is Zomato or a Swiggy a food company? Or have they reinvented a business? Yes, they did. It is the same business that when you went to a Pizza Hut, they were promising you 20-minute delivery. I mean, that business, when you started amplifying it and you started using technology, what did you develop? You developed a platform. And that platform, whether you went to the 80th city or the 800th city, the platform could multiply itself. And I think that's really what we are doing at Ionos, building platforms, understanding the needs not only of my customer, but the customer's customer. So, data-wise, all I can tell you is that this industry will grow. This industry, powered by AI, and I'm glad that we are all sitting here today and we are talking about AI impact. Because whether you apply it to a urban clap or you apply it to that 21-year-old Stanford failure and Stanford dropout did with Zepto, what did he do? He applied the Kirana store principle of distribute or an egg or your oatmeal or whatever, because that shopkeeper knew what the neighborhood wanted. Suddenly the language has become now dark stores. Suddenly the language has become all about logistics. The language is about, how we understand the data. Now, if you start applying it, because your customer's customer wanted a convenience of the next door store and you were using technology, normal company, go back into your own company, try getting a gate pass for your laptop. I mean, it will take you 20 minutes because there are 4 people who want to either sign or check or define how to do it. So my own submission is the aha moments for Ionos were all about understanding. The day you start understanding your customer's customer, your usage of AI, your build of platforms will, my friend has come. This time it is a 4-legged one. So anyway, understanding customer's customer. Actually, I have a story on customer's customer. I know I'm running out of time. And since Professor Jhunjhunwala is here, I must tell this story. The story is my 2-year-old grandchild who uses AI because he talks to Alexa, he uses iPad in his own way. And I was traveling and I asked him, what do I get for you? He has been hounding me to get a puppy. I said, I might as well try and find out, a furry, 4-legged, robotic dog, furry, robotic, 4-legged. And for that 2-year-old, my customer, which is my 2-year-old son, will only want to throw a ball so that this 4-legged robo can come and collect it. And trust me, I found all kinds of dogs but there was nothing which looked like. That means there was no hyper-personalization, there was no design element which took into account the 2-year-old's requirement. We have dogs who sing and dance, we have dogs who do whatever, but they still look like a robo. They don't look like that 4-leg stool. So the point again and again is, we all know our customers' demands are changing. We all know that we have the data. We all know that there is a research available. So go back into the basics of any innovation or any B2B company. The basics are understand what the requirement is or redefine what the requirement is. A typical corporate will say cost transformation. A typical corporate will say business transformation. A typical corporate will be increase my customer satisfaction. A typical corporate will say protect me. And typical corporate will also say, can I grow my business? So at Ionos, we listen to our customers. We now have 4 platforms. The first platform is UniProtect, which takes into account that we need to make systems which are resilient. We need to make systems which can be governed better and systems which can be brought up just in case a hacker succeeds. Similarly, I have a product called UniV, which takes into account customer experience management, but at half the cost. Because now we harmonize what the requirements of AI is, what the facilities of agentic AI is, and how I can marry technology and humans to deliver results. Similarly, I have a product which is about data monetization because my customers want to grow their business. They know they have data. You are a bank, you have data. You are a telecom, you have data. You are a kirana store, you have data. You want to cross-sell, upsell, you want to do more. So we have this product which is all about data monetization. And similarly, the last but not the least, which is UniStack, which is about multiple agentic AIs, multiple chatbots, multiple AGIs, all running through your system. How do you make sure that they are orchestrated? So I think we are having fun building Ionos. We have had fun listening to Sam Altman or Rajan, and all I can tell you is India is ready for scale-up. India is ready for 750 billion, and India is lucky that we have innovation centers like IIT Madras that Professor Ashok Jhunjhunwala runs. And I can only promise you is that we are also lucky that Ionos is rising up to the challenge because we listen to the customer, we listen to the customer's customer, and we use AI as a tool. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for sharing the vision of IONOS. We now move on to the next panel discussion. I request all the guests and audience seated on farther end of the stage, please take seats towards the center of the stage.
Hello. Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. We're officially at the halfway mark of the AI Impact Summit, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce my panelists here on our session on enterprise AI. I'll start with Amit. Amit Zaveri is the COO, President, and CPO at ServiceNow, the workflow enterprise giant. Followed by Victoria Espinel, who's the CEO for BSA, the Software Alliance. They're a global industry and advocacy body for enterprise software companies. And we also have Ms. Ambika Rajagopal, who is the Global Chief Digital and AI Ethics Officer for Michelin, which is the industrial and manufacturing giant. I think I want to start off with you, Amit. As COO and CPO, you don two hats between building the product and shipping it versus also running the business. There is a fine line to tread. How do you think about the business value that AI is able to accrue to your enterprise customers? What are some of the challenges that you're seeing between, say, 18 months ago to now? 18 months ago, we were at an experimentation stage. Now we're moving to much more of an adoption across the enterprise stage.
First, thanks for having me. Hello, everyone. I think the question you ask has been top of mind for every customer I speak to. Last year, I landed up speaking to almost 900 customers. And most of them, if start of last year, were worried about where to start with AI, what is the value it will create, and can you really manage it? Middle of last year, we started seeing a lot of change in mindset, specifically around the idea of if you can control and you have visibility, then AI is something they want to experiment and start using. And the growth started happening pretty much end of last year when people are starting to use these agentic workflows and systems to connect different things together and get real good value and automation out of it. Only time they started getting excited about it is because they had to have security around it. Right? So what we did was we introduced something called AI Control Tower, which provides you visibility and discovery of all the AI systems you have. And for customers, that made them much more comfortable that now I have ability to know what's going on, who's using what, how much I'm paying for it, can I really have visibility in terms of any kind of changes I'm making, and really be able to turn things on and off. And now what we're seeing is the huge amount of adoption starting to happen because of the idea that security is built in. You have a lot of scaffolding around compliance, auditing, be able to have visibility. That's the value creation starting to happen. Because AI is a great technology. It's really been a very good enabler for automation, insights, be able to do things much faster. But the worry always was around security, compliance, and visibility and control. Once you start taking that barriers out, the adoption started to go up. And the value creation is really about efficiency gain, be able to now connect different systems together faster, remove a lot of the inefficiency you had in the businesses, and freeing up resources to be able to invest in a lot of new areas as well. So connecting those things together has been really useful so far.
Speaking of new areas, Ambika, I want to bring you in because I think the vantage point you have at Michelin is a little different from how most of the world might be using AI right now. Michelin has, realized almost 100 million euros worth of business value through its enterprise, through its AI adoption. Tell us one boring, so-called boring industrial use case which has actually moved the needle much more than maybe an AI chatbot would have.
Yeah, so it's a wrong person to ask the question because, I've done AI for more than 20 years, and my joke is that, it used to struggle to get people to talk about AI, and now I can't go anywhere without, people only asking me questions about AI. So for me, there's nothing boring. But actually, for us, I think the chatbot has become, let's say, very common. We have, various levels of chatbots deployed, both, let's say, very accurate ones for our finance, for our folks that essentially consult our finance documentation. We have ones that are on the HR policies, and of course, more generic ones that people can make for themselves. But maybe a use case that is not among all of this, but really creates value. In fact, we've had a strong AI focus for several years now, and so if you look, so the tire, it's a zero safety product, and the imperfections or defects that you can see on the tire are visual. Okay, so in fact, one step in our qualification process is actually to visually inspect the tire. So over several years, and we have multiple patents for this, we have a machine, which we call Iris, that essentially, scans the entire surface of the tire and points out, essentially flags imperfection. But the interesting part is not this one. The interesting part is actually, what was the reaction of those that were involved in inspecting the tire prior to this, okay? And it's amazing because, first of all, it was not a really, ergonomically friendly job to essentially, closely inspect a tire, let's say in first shift, second shift, etc. But also, what the operators essentially said was, the part of their job that they really enjoyed was not finding the defect, it was really understanding the defect and flagging what it really was. Basically bringing their deeper knowledge of what tire defects really look like, what is, classifying them, understanding them, and this is what they are now able to focus on. So that's an example, of course, rolled out in several of our plants already. And now we are looking at, because now we have all those images, so it essentially is opening up even more use cases for us.
Victoria, as the head of an industry body, which counts the topmost enterprise giants amongst its membership, I want to start first with challenges and bottlenecks. What would you say are your top 3, 4 challenges that you're seeing when it comes to large enterprises really truly embedding the use of AI in their everyday fabric?
Thank you. So, I think it depends on the organization, but I think one of the things that companies will struggle with, I found your example really interesting because safety for Michelin is critical, right? Is trying to decide where in their organization they most need to use AI and focus that. Where I hear companies saying that they're struggling is when they either have sort of a organic use of it, but not one that is organized around something that's really mission critical to the company. And I think that's starting to change as companies are using it more and more. But I think one of the things that I say, because I get a lot of companies that ask me, like, what should we do? We want to start using AI. How should we start using it? And the advice that I give them is to focus on 1 or 2 things that are really important to the company, and then build a history of use around that, and then try to expand instead of trying to do too many things at once. I think sort of building that expertise inside. A second challenge is making sure your workforce understands it. So I think that is, it sounds obvious, but obviously a company is not going to be able to use AI effectively if the people inside the company don't know how to use it. And I think making sure that those skills are being transferred and given to the employees is critically important. I think my job is, I'm a policy expert, so I work with governments around the world and give them our advice from the perspective of enterprise software, what their laws should look like. And I think one of the struggles is that right now, we're still early in those days, and there's a fair amount of regulatory uncertainty. And so I think that can be a barrier to adoption when companies are concerned whether or not they're going to be compliant with a particular law. And that is, at BSA, that's one of the things that we work on, is trying to make sure that governments around the world are putting laws in place that are relatively consistent so that our members, like ServiceNow, but even more importantly, the customers of our members aren't having to deal with a lot of regulatory uncertainty.
Amit, coming to customers, what is the #1 reason that CEOs are hesitant to give right access to AI agents for their core enterprise solutions?
The #1 reason is always security. There's a huge amount of concern about who has access to the data and how it's going to be exposed externally. So typically, if you talk to any CIO or anybody else, they want to have ability to control that. And they are worried about some of these AI agents where you have no ability to govern or secure or really have ability to manage them. That can go wrong. And enterprise data and your IP can be exposed. So that's typically the main reason. And then after that, once you can solve some of the problem, then they get excited.
I'm sensing there is a culture, or at least a mindset, that we need to overcome, whether it comes to customers or whether it comes to the users within your enterprise who have to do that. Ambika, let's go to the shop floor, the factory floor. How do you convince an army of factory workers with maybe 30 years of experience to listen to an AI agent that's telling them to change a vulcanization setting that is not intuitive to them? They feel like they've been on the floor, they understand the system inside out, but perhaps your AI system has detected an alternative way of doing things. Is that something that's even a challenge now? The mindset of the people who've had to kind of implement the AI?
Yeah, so I think, first of all, there is, what we are, let's say, what is not helpful is that, there is a lot of conversation around loss of jobs due to AI automation. But honestly, I would say without a lot of substantial data behind it, there are layoffs, but are they, in which sector? Are they directly correlated? This is not clear. And then, the academic studies, we don't really have any research as yet that I'm aware of that clearly points to this. So in fact, what we do have is long-term research from econometrics that essentially shows that what could be automated are tasks. Right, and essentially tasks in areas where a particular, the person performing the task has in fact a wide range of tasks in their job. So it's not the job that's getting automated, like a single job. It is in fact tasks inside a job. And this is very interesting because, if you let's say take a person who has been working at a station for multiple years, and one of their tasks of making a specific judgment now comes with a recommendation which gives them deeper insight into what it is, also essentially shows them over time that they get better outcomes, in their station from that particular part. And not only that, basically frees up their mental space, cognitive ability to essentially focus maybe on the root cause of some of the flags that they are seeing. Then, we are talking about something completely different. We are basically talking now about a worker who is more engaged in what they are doing. We are talking about a worker for whom, the AI, in fact, is helping them, to understand their own process better. And we have examples where, in fact, this is exactly how it goes. Not with, we've basically deployed, recommendation engines in the form of bots, of course, but those are, not the chat bots like LLMs. They, in fact, you, let's say, okay, you know what, this is what I see is going on with this machine. Could you suggest what it could be due to? And it brings back, let's say, 1, 2, 3 root causes for it, and they love it. And it's exactly for the reasons that I said before. It brings an answer that then they have the time, to reflect about, and that's a win-win.
I'm going to come to the geopolitical effects of AI adoption in just a bit, but before I do, I have one question for all three of you. AI is changing rapidly, even weeks, if not months. Months, not weeks. And Indian, businesses are at an early stage of streamlining their technology. If we talk about small and medium-sized businesses, they're facing a strange conundrum between making investments in technology that might actually become obsolete very soon, but also having to lay down at least the foundational, framework for having their AI processes and technology in place. They're at odds with, what kind of decisions they should be making and how quickly. What is the one piece of advice you'd have for small and medium-sized businesses and how they ought to think about their AI roadmap for, say, the next 12 to 18 months?
So I would say two. One, pick one use case and focus on that. Second, a lot of small and medium-sized businesses, companies are using software that is embedded, AI is being embedded into it. And so I think if you're unsure where to start, one thing to start is making sure you're using the AI tools and the software products that you are already using before leaping into something new. But the first one is pick one use case, start there, make it work, learn from that.
And what I would say is, obsolescence, dealing with obsolescence is the fact of life of every CIO. You can't escape it. It's always there. But what is far more important for me than what I would say is far more important obsolescence is adoption. As long as you have adoption and as long as you're seeing values, value, then, the obsolescence that you have becomes something that you can actually, take care of. It's when it's the other way around, you have obsolescence, but you have no value coming out of the software, then, you're in a different position. So, it is a strange time. It feels like the ground is moving underneath our feet, every few months. So nevertheless, I think the focus on adoption, making sure that whatever it is that you build is in fact truly relevant for the folks that you're building it for, my advice would be to focus on that.
I'll just say, I think I agree with you. Getting a good use case which is going to add value, right? Something which you can say that I can measure and see something useful out of it is going to be an important part of it. And I think you cannot just ignore the value of AI. So get used to it, learn some of the tools, but don't use AI for the sake of AI. Just make sure you're getting some value from it before you invest in it.
One more One more question. ServiceNow is model agnostic. Every company is pitching their model to be the best one. How does one prevent AI sprawl? Because currently enterprises are also struggling with having 50 disconnected systems in place. How does one company choose what's best for them? In this context, why is interoperability important? Why are open platforms important?
No, I think it's important. If you look at history of enterprise software, if you do land up getting locked in, it is very hard to get out of it. And that's why having a solution or buying products which give you choice and flexibility for an enterprise customer is always paramount. And I think many enterprise customers have learned over years, don't lock yourself in. So the way we think about it is to have a solution where it's not really about the model, and you shouldn't care what model is being used underneath an application. As long as the solution meets your need, and we can give you the choice of whatever it is underneath the covers, and eventually you might not even care, because the value is created by the product and the solution, not by the model itself. So that way you're not locked in. If I change something which is a better price or better performance or better capability or but more language support, more voice support, whatever may be required, that's the right thing to do for the product. And it should not be tied based on, just like you don't pick the chip you're using in an application. Do you care whether it's AMD or Intel or NVIDIA? Probably not. For an application user typically, or a workflow user. That's how we think about this idea. So don't lock yourself in. Get a solution which gives you flexibility in terms of deployment, integration, as well as model choices. And then you will get the best price as well as the best performance and the best solution over time.
I think fragmentation is becoming a problem not just within the enterprise, but also across countries, across markets that you operate in, across sectors. Victoria, BSA, advocates a risk-based approach, both to sectoral, regulations, as well as how AI rules, will evolve even in different countries. How do we prevent 50 different rules for 50 different sectors? There are highly regulated sectors like the financial services sector, like insurance. What kind of an approach should regulators think about when it comes to, different companies working in the sector, so that that company doesn't owe different kinds of things to different people who govern them?
Yeah, I mean, this issue of fracturing comes up in all sorts of different ways, right? So there's sectoral versus there's different countries, there's within a country the different frameworks they have. And again, part of what we spend a lot of time around the world doing is trying to make sure those approaches are as consistent as possible. Different sectors of the economy are going to have different obligation and compliance burdens, right? They're going to have different regulators. What we advocate for is having one general framework that applies across the economy, and then for particular sectors right now, because we are still in relatively early days, to have regulators using tools like sandboxes and general guidelines and seeing if those approaches work and being able to sort of quickly pivot to another, sort of agile regulation, if you will. And I think that's going to be very important as we're moving forward in this world.
Ambika, again, very, very interesting vantage point, because factories don't chase hype, they chase uptime. 2 myths you'd like to bust about AI when it comes to, industrial and manufacturing space?
I think the first one is that there is no interest or a strong resistance from either the factory workers or floor, or in fact, it's exactly the opposite. We have examples. In fact, there is a push that we have, from remote factories around the world where they have access to, certain tools that essentially they are able to build something, and they come to us and say, hey, we've built this, it's doing great. How can we deploy it? How can we work on it? So I think the first myth is that there is a, lack of a ground-up enthusiasm. This is not true. In fact, we find a large, a swell of interest that's coming to us, from around the world. I think the second thing would be that, as to where is it that the focus is. So it's really in fact, what we have found is because manufacturing organizations, have a long history through Kaizen, through Six Sigma, of consistently working on our processes. So it's just how manufacturing companies work. We consistently, refine our processes. So really the organizations that have that mindset are able to look at AI as another another opportunity to essentially re-engineer processes. So a process and a system-focused way to look at to look at problems that are, let's say, where AI can make a difference. This has been huge as well.
Amit, we were briefly having a sidebar conversation earlier where we were discussing this whole trend of sovereignty. A few years ago, there were fears about the balkanization of the internet, when the whole data localization piece was coming up. Now there is talk of a splinternet because, different countries have concerns about what kind of sovereign capabilities the country should be focusing on, where the data should reside, where the models should be trained and where inferencing should be done. Can you talk to us a little bit about what are the challenges that you're seeing when it comes to, implementing some of these solutions, especially for customers that might be operating in different countries with different rules? Are the operating rules different for a company operating in Delhi versus Detroit?
No, I think the question you asked about sovereignty is top of mind for every customer I speak to, especially multinational, but also a lot of the country-based sovereign country institutions, especially public sector or things like regulated industries. And it's gone up a lot over the last few years because the worry about that, do you want to run software which is not in your access control? And do you give data outside without any kind of oversight? So I think the software which we are designing and we're seeing a lot more need for it is to ensure that we have ability to run that locally, where the data resides locally, is maintained and managed by somebody local in the country with the citizenship. And then the architecture becomes very complex. As you said, if you're multinational, you're operating in many, many countries, how do you guarantee that kind of regulatory profile and that software guarantees that you will get the right outcome? So I think what we have done, at least, we try to make our software very flexible. You can run this in private cloud, you can run it in your own data center, our data center on a hyperscaler, so that any kind of new regulations come in, you can adopt to it. But there are a lot of other issues out there with many of these if you see what you see with these large language models. The frontier models don't run locally. The inferencing might happen locally, but some data still will go somewhere else. And that is be an issue where architecturally I'm not sure how quickly they can adopt to the sovereign requirements of many, many countries today. Everybody's getting excited about AI, but that is going to be the big problem.
If the architecture were to be solved for, if the company is completely compliant, do you sense that there might be a risk still that the efficiency might come down if there is more and more kind of hard data localization? Are the outcomes that the system is able to produce better when the system is more widely and freely connected?
Yeah, I think having a global environment is always better. But I can definitely see the performance and other issues are not there. The question becomes, can you build so much uniqueness for every different regulation and requirements? So it's very costly. And the cost will eventually get passed to the individual customers. And then that's where do you want to adopt it? How quickly will you do it? Whether you want to invest in it becomes a big question.
Victoria, as a former US trade negotiator, I know you're no stranger to, aligning global standards and knowing how difficult it is. If you had to preach and advise governments around the world to take it a little slow when it comes to, putting the brake on this innovation so that a global environment, like Amit said, is easier to have, what would you advise them?
So I would say focus on adoption. I think that is the thing that is going to have the biggest economic impact on countries. And so if we're sitting here 10 years from now, looking back, the countries that win the AI race, the ones that are going to be the winners are going to be the ones that figured out how to have their private sector adopt AI in a smart way. That is who's going to win the AI race. So I would say focus on adoption. I would also say I'm so excited. I love being in India, so excited to be back in Delhi, and I'm so excited that Prime Minister Modi decided to host the summit here because these types of convenings are what help us move towards global cooperation and global alignment. So it's wonderful to be here.
Ambika, I'm going to move to you. India's priming itself to be the next global manufacturing hub. Historically, we've competed on costs. But do you think AI can be India's secret weapon where we win on precision rather than price necessarily if we're able to become AI native and AI first in a truly meaningful way?
Yeah, I think, just being here, as Victoria said, it's, you just have to be here to really, I think, feel the energy. to have, I think the average age must be like mid-20s, and I see a certain, enthusiasm, I see, hope in everybody's eyes, and it's, and I think, as whether it's manufacturing or whether it's any other sector, this is, the dividend that we will actually reap is from the investment that is there, from in the education of our technical education, technical bent, and deep interest, entrepreneurial mindset of our youth, and that's sector agnostic.
I know time is up. I have one quick fire question for all three of you. One AI function that you think will change the most by 2030, and one that you think will resist the wave of AI the most.
I think change the most will be consulting. So I think it's just going to be done an entirely different way. And that will resist the most, I think, is I would say the medical field, because I think we already have plenty of evidence that it sort of, just absorbs it, becomes more complex and moves on. So your relationship with your doctor is not something I don't think that's going to change.
I know we're at time, but thank you everyone for your patience and for being here. And thank you so much to all of our panelists for for their wonderful remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, panel members. Thank you, Manvi, for your excellent moderatorship. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We now move on to the next keynote address for the day. It's my honor to invite Mr. Carl Skow, Deputy Executive Director, World Food Program, to deliver the keynote address on AI in food security and nutrition. Please give a huge round of applause for Mr. Carl.
Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really delighted to be here today, and let me start by thanking the Government of India and everyone involved in organizing this impressive summit. It has already generated thought-provoking discussions and illuminating insights on the potential to transform economies, the future of work, and daily life. The transition from strategy to impact is indeed key. But I would like to focus on another vital intelligence frontier in this AI space, one that deserves just as much attention, and that is humanitarian action. If harnessed responsibly, AI could enable humanitarian organizations to save and improve millions of lives. We could unlock new levels of scale, speed, and efficiencies, and the need for technological innovation has never been greater, because today the humanitarian and development system is overstretched and underfunded. Just take world hunger. 300 million people don't know where their next meal is going to come from. 2 famines have been confirmed simultaneously for the first time in a century, in Gaza and in Sudan. But drastic budget cuts have forced organizations like the World Food Programme to cut food assistance almost everywhere we work. Like in the Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo, where WFP is only able to feed 500,000 people out of 10 million classified as acutely food insecure. Or in Afghanistan, where we cannot support 15 million people in urgent need of food assistance. So it is imperative that humanitarians find new ways to multiply impact. We have to do better with less, and AI innovation could fill some of that gap. With further investment and new partnerships, we could bring the benefits of AI to even more of the world's most vulnerable people. WFP is well positioned to lead. Our frontline presence gives us unique data from some of the hardest to reach places on Earth. WFP is taking an organization-wide enterprise approach to AI development. Our global AI strategy has set clear standards, priorities, and governance. Our research and development teams are quickly scaling and deploying AI solutions to real problems in the field. This is allowing WFP's frontline teams to deliver faster, smarter, and more efficient programs, often at lower cost. 4 key areas of WFP operations have been transformed already. Firstly, AI-enabled tools are helping WFP to predict and plan for crises before they strike. Our Hunger Map Live platform uses near real-time machine learning to track risks like extreme floods or droughts in over 90 countries. It can predict a crisis hotspot up to 60 days before it peaks, which gives our country teams time to plan and deliver early support to families before the peak of the shock. This reduces the impact on vulnerable populations already on the brink, and it is more cost-efficient than post-crisis aid. Second, AI is helping WFP to assess damage after disasters strike, so that we know which areas are in greatest needs, and to do so quickly. Our open-source AI-powered satellite analysis lets us assess building damage within 48 hours. Before, it took us 3 weeks. We have shared this tool with government partners so that together we can rush in humanitarian assistance to the hardest hit areas after a crisis. This allowed faster and smarter response in Myanmar earthquake in 2025, the Turkey-Syria earthquakes in 2023, and the Pakistan floods in 2022. And we continue to iterate. We expect that the next version of Delivery Insights under will deliver insights under 24 hours. Third, AI is starting to allow WFP to leverage our extensive population data sets to make faster and smarter operational decisions. Like in our food security assessment system, which hold the information of tens of millions of people, we now use AI automation to process vast amounts of their data twice as quickly as before. This has radically sped up the food assistance journey. We are moving much faster from field data collection to targeting insights to delivering food and cash. And fourth, AI-enabled logistics and demand forecasting systems are helping WFP to improve our approach to humanitarian delivery. This is the core of WFP's business, and the cost efficiencies could be game-changing. Like Scout, our supply chain planning tool, it allows us to plan cheaper and faster food procurement, stock pre-positioning and storage, and delivery routes. The tool has already saved us $6 million in savings, which can be channeled back into WFP frontline programs. And as we scale up, we project it could save $25 million a year. Those efficiencies could free up enough resources for WFP to provide 50 million more meals to people in need. Moving from our frontline operations to our internal systems, AI is also helping us to eliminate internal resource waste, which WFP simply cannot afford anymore. For example, AI automation is now fixing duplication errors in our population databases. These errors are hard to detect manually, so this automated solution is a real boost to our country operations. With more accurate registration records, they can ensure that WFP assistance is reaching the right people at the right time. In Mali, where funding shortfalls have required us to cut assistance by some 50% in the last year, this service has saved us more than $400,000. We're now planning to scale it up worldwide, which we project could save some $5 million already this year. Distinguished colleagues, global hunger is a shared challenge. WFP's goal is to tackle food insecurity wherever and however we can make a positive difference. We have growing expertise in developing and delivering technological change. These are robust foundations to support host governments and authorities to leverage AI for domestic food security. That support includes helping countries to enhance their crisis early warning systems and grow the impact and scale of their social protection systems and climate risk preparedness. This spirit of innovation has helped WFP to forge particularly strong partnership with the government of India. Together, we are improving efficiency, access, and transparency in the world's largest food safety nets. Like our work on optimizing the public distribution system supply chain, we have cut transport costs and times across 31 states here in India, so that food grains are delivered faster to people who need them most. The resulting savings can be redirected into critical social programs. Together, we have also rolled out smart warehouses nationwide, which use AI to store food more efficiently at a lower stock losses. And we are very proud of our joint success, Anupurti automatic grain dispenser. They provide 24/7 access to monthly food entitlements so that people can collect their rations at the time that suits them best. This is making a big difference to migrant families and other vulnerable groups. And the work that we do here in India is really an inspiration, and it's providing solutions also for our operations worldwide and the support that we provide to governments in other countries. WFP is ready to co-create, co-invest. The value we can bring is more than just response tech expertise. It is frontline scale. Through our operational footprint, WFP generates and responsibly maintains large-scale, real-world data sets. This puts us in a unique position to train models, to validate them, and to put them at work. So we want to hear from more industry and research partners. Your cutting-edge innovation and tools could save and improve millions of lives when combined with WFP's operating scale. We are ready to support more government systems too. Our teams are leading experts on integration of responsible AI into national food security, preparedness, and social protection systems. Our AI systems for early warning, needs assessment, and logistics could catalyze your national systems to deliver far more impact and at a lower cost. Together, we can modernize crisis preparedness, architectures, and protect more people earlier and more cost efficiently. And to the humanitarian and development community, we are committed to partnering with you through enterprise-grade platforms and scalable approaches. We are ready to share, reuse, and strengthen what works for everyone. We owe it to the people we serve to reduce fragmentation, accelerate better outcomes, and ensure that innovation truly serves the people at scale. Colleagues, we are excited at the potential for AI to supercharge the fight against hunger and many other humanitarian challenges besides. Redefining humanitarian response through AI is now one of our top corporate priorities at WFP. With the right partners, we can take what works and make it work even better everywhere. The leadership and innovation ecosystem in this room is already shaping how the world thinks about technology for public good, at scale and with inclusion. We are eager to work with more of you on responsible, high-impact humanitarian action enabled by AI. Together, we can save and change millions of lives for the world's most vulnerable people. They deserve to share in the AI dividends as much as everyone, if not more. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scow, for sharing the vision of the World Food Programme and India's and WFP collaboration. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll request you to stay seated for the next power-packed conversation panel. Krishnan, Secretary, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India, as the moderator. We also have with us Shri Ajay Kumar Sood, Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India, and Shri Sethu Raman Panchanathan, former Director of the US National Science Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a huge round of applause for the leaders.
Oh, wow. Okay. That is, for a change, I get to ask questions. Okay. Very happy to have both Dr. Sethuraman Panchanathan and Dr. Ajay Kumar Sood here with us. And as is, I mean, I've got so used to answering all kinds of questions in the past few weeks that finally it feels good to be in a position to actually ask people questions. So let me, I guess neither of the two speakers actually requires an introduction. Both of them are leading scientists and science administrators in their own right, who, unlike a pure administrator like me, have done far greater good to the cause of science. So let me start with you, Dr. Panchanathan. During your tenure at NSF, how did you approach funding decisions for AI research? What criteria determined which projects received the support, and what funding models have proven most effective in translating AI research into real-world applications?
Thank you, Secretary Krishna. It's good to be here, and it's mind-boggling what you have put together. And I can imagine how you are all spending sleepless nights. We are very grateful. So you asked a question about NSF. At NSF, you know, one of the things I keep reminding people is the AI of today that we are all celebrating is more than 5 to 6 decades of sustained investments by NSF. I often remind people that even in AI winters, when people were not investing in AI because they were circumspect about what it is, NSF continued to invest along with other investors. And so what you see today is an outcome of that kind of an investment. That's the first point. More recently, we have configured the investments not only in discovery spaces, but also in a very focused way. Just in the last 3 years, we invested in 27 AI institutes, close to more than $500 million, each center being $20 million scale, and co-invested by not only NSF, but also other partnership entities, industry, other agencies, and so on. So that's the second. And you asked the third part of the question is, what does it do in terms of translating and what kind of programs help with the translation? Institutes do some, but we also have a program which we created as part of a Technology Innovation Partnerships Directorate called the Regional Innovation Engines Program. There, we essentially allowed for these ideas to then form the basis of development of economic development ecosystems for economic prosperity. And then you augment that with other programs that existed at NSF, which continues to advance ideas to translation, like the Innovation Core Program or the Small Business Innovation Research Program and others, which essentially take the AI ideas, like other science and technology ideas, incubate them into small enterprises and entrepreneurial ventures. And so these are the ways in which a multifaceted approach to sustained investments from discovery to translation to impact. So, in a very quick summary.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that quick summary, and which sort of encapsulates all that NSF has done over almost 50, 60 years. To you, Dr. Sood, what is the current landscape of AI funding in India across government agencies, and how do we ensure better coordination and avoid duplication? Also, how can India attract more private sector investment into AI research while maintaining focus on the public good?
Thank you very much, Mr. Krishnan. First of all, I'd like to take this opportunity to say that it's a privilege and a pleasure for personally for me and my office, Principal Scientific Advisor's office, to be associated with this AI mission, AI wave in the country. So we have been working with your office, with you, and I can see the scale at which Mighty has worked to bring AI to this scale at you had the mission approved in 2024 and it's only about 1.5 years. The progress is actually more than exponential. So first of all, my congratulations to you and your entire team for this spectacular work which you have done. And through you, I am also conveying to Honorable Minister, who is leading the ship, and of course our Honorable Prime Minister. So coming to what you said, investment in AI as compared to other countries has been mostly from the government, which nucleated the whole scene with your AI mission. And along with AI mission, we had also Ministry of Education, which put in its resources to make 4 centers of excellence. And of course, DST, which did some initial funding under cyber physical system. So with all this, we have brought up a critical mass of innovators in this game. So now the stage is all set where private sector has been energized. So it is not that the private sectors took the lead and invested. Here it has been the other way. Government nucleated this and catalyzed this, and now the players will come on board. So the private sector can see a value. So when they set up the data centers, which is quite a bit of a announcement now, right from Google 15 billion in Vizag and then Reliance and then Amazon, all those data centers will contribute to AI. Not only AI innovation, but AI diffusion. And what is important is that with India, we have to focus on innovation. And today is a good day. I was just, because it's so hot, I thought I'll mention that this Sarvam AI, which our AI mission funded, and you are a partner in crime, they have released today 105 billion parameter model with 22 Indian languages. Now, this is not really saying that we are also in the race. We are saying we are ahead of the race in this game. So the innovation is the key point, and once the innovation comes, I am sure the private sector and academia and startups, they are working in unison. In fact, there is a synergy, and AI mission is actually the glue which is helping this. So once again, my congratulations to AI mission, which has done a phenomenal job in nucleating this, and all this ecosystem which has been created in the country, and the enormous enthusiasm of the young people in this summit is a reflection of how AI is going to penetrate our lives with safety and a trustworthy AI.
Dr. Sood, I mean, you're as much part of the AI mission as any of us, so the credit belongs as much to you as to anybody else.
Thank you.
But staying with you, another question for you, since you've been partly associated with that. India is developing its own AI regulatory framework, while others like EU have already implemented some comprehensive laws. Should India adopt a similar approach or chart its own path? And how is India addressing concerns around algorithmic bias and ethical AI use across sectors?
Actually, probably the most important question you have asked. So I'll just say for the people who are here, India AI governance framework was released by MITI, and I happen to chair that. That was in November 2025. And one of the vertical or sutra as we called is the safe and trusted AI. In that, we have articulated what it means by this. And in particular, we took a leaf out of our experience in and we brought in an idea of techno-legal framework. That is what DPI 1.0 has really permeated our society. So what it means for non-experts in the audience, you embed your legal requirements in the right in the technology when you are developing, deploying, and using. So these are the requirements which are embedded. Of course, you can always say, will it affect my model? How much will it slow down? How much will it have latency? All those are worth looking at it. But this framework which was released, a white paper on 10th of February, I request all of you to look at it. There we have advocated that techno-legal framework could be one of the ways to have safe and trusted AI. This is not only for the government, even the institutions when they want to implement AI, processes, they have to know whether it is safe. Please, trust me, if you are not careful and if you are in a rush, actually the legal issues will kill you in few years because it will do some damage and then it will be a question who is responsible. So this techno-legal framework is really one of the frameworks which we have said with appropriate technologies, appropriate things. And through you, I will put here on this platform, we should see how we can incentivize the implementation of techno-legal framework or any safety framework. It's not only voluntary, because I think if we incentivize to all the companies, all the institutions, it will be a big way. So I thought we have a role to play here, and that's why I mentioned it.
Thank you very much. And turning to you, Dr. Punch, how is the US navigating the tension between fostering innovation on one side and ensuring responsible AI development on the other? What do you think is the best possible regulatory approach here?
No, this is a very, very good question as Ajay has weighed into this from the Indian side. From the US side, I think the important thing that you want as a guidepost is you don't want regulations to impede innovation. That's the underlying thing, that you should never let any regulation become, an impediment to fostering innovation. So that's been the guiding mantra, if you may, right through the process. So clearly, entities like NIST have put together risks frameworks. So you need some frameworks that tells you where the risks are. Otherwise, it can be in a blanket kind of policy that you build that might actually, as I said, curb the speed of innovation. So that is a good step in my view. And so it is a work in progress is how I would say it. As Ajay has been saying, you need a number of other disciplinary folks participating in this, because typically when we build technology, these things become afterthought. And one of the challenges that we face in AI today is that technology has advanced so fast and is advancing faster, but the other frameworks are trying to keep pace with it. And you can think of it as putting band-aids, if you may, right? Rather than how do you have policy and social behavioral economic sciences and other disciplinary inspirations co-creating technology so that these things don't become an afterthought, but it becomes, right from the inception of the technology itself, because we're learning these lessons in AI, which is going to help us in other technologies of the future. So back to your question, therefore, there are many approaches that is being talked about, but in the US, I think the fundamental concept is how do you build guardrails, where guardrails need to be put in place, and at the same time be mindful of the fast pace of progress, and so to work closely with industry and other partners. So Congress is interested in that. There have been caucuses in Congress in the last couple of years, both in the Senate side and the House side. Of course, the administration is closely involved. The Office of Science Technology Policy in the White House is closely involved. Agencies like NSF and other agencies are also closely involved. At NSF, what we did was we said, why might not we create teams by which we can work with industry? I'll give you a concrete example. We partnered with Amazon on a trustworthy AI call. This is about 3 years ago now, sort of foreshadowing what might come about and how might we work and bring the assets of industry and its concerns and the emerging concerns public domain, but also bring scientists along so that we might solve these problems rather than only putting those kinds of policy frameworks without being informed by all the things that needs to happen with a scientific approach to this also. Otherwise, these things will be lacking in scientific rigor and approach, that we might just put it because we are afraid of something. As you know, fear is not necessarily a good emotion, and it really curbs innovation. So it's not to be coming from a foundation of fear, but a foundation of responsible, ethical approach to how do we build these frameworks, and that's the approach that we are taking as we speak.
Thank you very much. Now, given that we don't have much time left, I have one question which I'd like both of you to answer. India has scale and diverse real-world problems. The US has deep research infrastructure and funding. How can we structure partnerships that leverage these complementary strengths so that it's good not just for these two countries, but for the rest of the world as well? Dr.
I think, no, absolutely good question to look at, because we have our strength in innovation, and now with the infrastructure provided by Mission as well as by other agencies, our innovators have been enabled. Now, once that happens, we can really interact as a partner rather than just accepting whatever is given. So this is a true partnership issue, and India can be a very, very wonderful player where the skills of our young people, the innovative skills, the innovation hunger, I would call it, will be very, very beneficial. So what we need to see, we need a framework actually for this cooperation if we want government to government or government to be, but business to business is really what will take over in this field. And business to business can only be done when there is a trust. And India is a very trusted player, and so US. So this is our strength of years of partnership between India and US, because our lot of young talent has one way or the other interacted or spent time in US. So it is a very good situation where trust has been built. So now we want to work on it, and we need to see how we utilize each other's strength. So one example which one can see, is there a use case, because India of course has huge diversity in languages and our heritage, literature and so on. What we learn here, what message it has for the US. So it can't be only one-way traffic, it has to be two-way traffic, where we will learn from our experience and our showcasing, and we are open from the other side. So it is a win-win for both sides.
Thank you, Ajay. Picking up on what Ajay said, first of all, I want to say that we developed a strong partnership. NSF and DST, METI, DBT and others, and we had forged a lot of projects between US and India over the last 5 years. So let's start right there. The largest democracy and the oldest democracy working together can do amazing things, picking up on what Ajay said. And Ajay and I worked very closely in the Quad context in AI in agriculture, because that's an area that we both care about and that we can deliver solutions. So at the top level, you address the issue of infrastructure versus applications. I would say there are model development, for example. Infrastructure clearly is an area where there are a lot of progress that is made in United States, and India is also trying to do the same. Then there are models, and then there are these large-scale models, and then the small-scale models are becoming more contextualized, and India is taking a lot of steps in that area, and of course so is US. So there are some synergies that are possible there around certain applications domain. Data sharing, which is an exceedingly important imperative if you want to really build good models, is an area where we can actually work together on. And clearly the applications that we both care about deeply, and we can have a lot of transactions at that level. So all of the layers can have potential gains. And there are things, as Ajay said, that can be learned from both sides in order to enrich the development, which then, to the concept of what this meeting is all about, AI becomes for global good, not just only two nations and their economic and social good, but it becomes for global good. And this partnership, therefore, has been evolving, and in the last few years, we have, in fact, with a lot of intensity and intentionality, we have scaled it. There's a lot more room for scaling. And you talked about the private sector. There's a lot of private sector that transcends both India and the United States. You named Google, for example. Every large company, both ways, whether it is Cognizant or Infosys on this side, Cognizant is a US company, but a lot of presence in India, and likewise, Google and Amazon and Microsoft and others. So I would say that it is not just only one sector that leads it. The future is going to be determined by all sectors working together. The agencies, the private sector, academia, startups, and small businesses, all of them, and of course the two governments enabling that, is the future I see, which is going to be made possible because of the collective interest and the speed at which things are moving will motivate us to want to explore avenues by which we strengthen our partnerships and work for the global good, as I said. And that's what
Krishna,
I see.
I know time is over. Can I add 5 seconds to this?
Sure,
Because I think it is also a high time when we go above the euphoria of AI usage alone, applications. We need to see 5 years down the line what will happen. And this is where India and US should collaborate. I'll give you 2 examples which are possible and not much is happening. One is with the energy demand, AI is going crazy. It's going nuts. Question is it scalable? After 1 trillion, 5 trillion, what do you do? So we have been saying, think about using quantum computers in AI and AI for quantum computing. This is an area which is very nascent right now. And if India and US come together in these 2 cutting edge technologies, AI and quantum computing, I have a feeling we can make a difference. Second area where again India and US can make a difference is in the physical AI. Physical AI is not so much on the scene as it should be, but physical AI looking at robotics, humanoid, whatever you want to call it, but which is really working at places where we don't want humans to be there. So this is another area which I think 3 years down the line, we will have a huge explosion in these 2 areas, if I am allowed to really think aloud. And you can always think aloud in the evening. So that's the point.
I guess you answered the last question that I had for both of you, which was that if you could implement one policy change to accelerate beneficial AI development, what would it be? Can I take your response as an answer to that question, Dr. Sood?
That is one part, but if you want to take one thing, what we need to see, somehow come out with a framework which is trustworthy in terms of regulations and policies, so that whatever is developed across both countries has a easy path, whatever you want to call it. Unless that is done, and unless you have a global data governance framework, it will not happen.
Thank you for that answer. You have the last word on that question.
Thank you. No, I was just didn't want to lose sight of the fact that we have talked a lot about technology and the applications and so on. At the end of the day, the success of AI is going to be determined by talent. And so if there is a policy that I would like to see is the proliferation of a policy that allows for talent to be trained at scale, at speed, and across not only technology realm, but across all disciplines. So this is an important thing that we should keep in mind. And there, I don't think it is determined only by what academic progress will do. It is really a convergence of academia, industry, technology, and other folks coming together. It is a new way of looking at what learning is all going to be. It is not what it is going to be today, extrapolated. It's going to be a completely new model of how you build that. And so I really feel that we need to spend a lot of energy in that thinking, because that's what is going to sustain the progress and speed the progress into the future.
Thank you very much, both Dr. Panchanathan and Dr. Sood. We could have kept this conversation going for hours, I know, but time's up is what they are telling us, and these premises have to be vacated at 4:30 for the later events of the evening. Thank you. It was wonderful having this conversation, and for me personally, a real relief to be asking questions instead of answering them. I've been answering too many of them, but wonderful insights. Thank you very much.
Thank you, leaders. Thank you, Secretary Sir, for your moderatorship, and Professor Sood and Mr. Panchanathan for their time.
Hello. Yeah. Hey, good evening, everyone. I know this is the last session, so we'll keep it brief. I won't take more than 10, 15 minutes. I want to talk about something very interesting, agentic commerce, and something that I am personally very excited about on how it can change the way India consumes commerce today. But before I start there, let's talk about digital India. We all know India has a massive digital ecosystem. We have 1.5 billion Aadhaar users. We have 950 million internet users. We have 650 million plus smartphone users. We have 450 million plus users of digital payments. India, no other country has been able to build a massive digital infrastructure like India has. And while this is very exciting, let's look at commerce. When we look at commerce, out of 650 million people, less than 200 million people actually do shopping online. If you peel it even further, less than 10 million of those people do 70% of all e-commerce purchases. So out of 1.5 billion people, we're down to just 10 million doing 70% of all purchases. Why is it that tiny? It's not like these people aren't consuming, but they're consuming through offline channels. They're consuming through retailers. They're consuming through offline agents. They're consuming through brokers because they still don't trust or use online commerce the way we all are used to. And why does that happen? I think the fundamental reason is India is conversational. We like to talk, we like to interact, we like to take time to come to our decision making. Some examples I'll give here. When you look at WhatsApp, we all use WhatsApp. India runs on WhatsApp. But almost 50% of all WhatsApp voice notes originate from India. We all have people in our families who still send that WhatsApp voice note because that's what they're comfortable with. They want to speak in their own language, they want to speak in their own voice when they communicate with someone rather than using text or reading text. My friends in US are always surprised that in tier 2 and tier 3 cities of India, YouTube is the most popular search engine and not Google. And that's because people want to hear the answers to their questions. People want to listen to somebody talk in their language, not just read a wall of text. And that has been hard to replace in the commerce world. So when you look at commerce in India, the conversational part of commerce is far bigger than transactional. And most apps that we are all used to are still transactional. They tell you what's available and you have to figure out yourself. Given an example of travel, like I have people in a family who still go to a travel agent because when you go to an OTA platform, you have to pick and choose. The interface intimidates them. You have to figure out what to do. While all options are available, they're intimidated by the amount of choice that's available. So less than 70 million Indians use online travel portals, and $50 billion plus of purchases on travel happens through offline travel agents. Insurance is similar. Less than 10% of insurance is purchased online. 90% of it is purchased through a broker, somebody they know, somebody they can interact with, somebody who can answer their questions, somebody who they can go to and ask when they have a problem. And that is something online commerce hasn't solved for people today. AI essentially enables these conversations. AI allows us to build interfaces that are voice first, that are multilingual, that are assisted, where you can ask any question in your local language and get it answered. And that's why AI can change this. The fundamental bottom line is the apps solve for access, AI solves for accessibility. And I'll give an example of what I mean by that. Like when I speak to my friends in US, they typically buy their day-to-day stuff in a supermarket. If you've seen US supermarkets, they're full of choices. You have aisles and aisles full of produce, you have aisles and aisles full of products. You'll have 20 types of cereals, you'll have 10 types of milk. And the US ecosystem loves that. You have all the choices, you pick and choose what you want, you make your cart, you go to a checkout point. Sometimes even the checkout is self-checkout, and you do it and you walk out. That's how Americans shop. But that's not how Indians shop. When Indians want to shop, they go to a retailer next door. They ask him that, hey, I want to buy this. And he tells you the price. You negotiate with him that, hey, I want to pay this price. He sometimes upsells you that, hey, have you tried this new product? And that's how you make purchases. The commerce apps that we have in this country are built like the US supermarkets. But an average Indian doesn't shop like the US supermarkets. The average Indian shops through voice. He shops through conversations. And that is what AI can solve. So while apps solve for access to all the capabilities, AI solves for accessibility, where it can answer your questions before you make a purchase. So the old journey involves discovery, decision-making, negotiation, assistance. That's what people are used to. And AI can allow you to build that agentic commerce journey exactly how people are used to. It's natural for Indians. So think of somebody wanting to plan a solo travel trip. He goes to an AI agent. He says, hey, I want to plan a trip to this place. What are the options? And he says, hey, who wants to go? Do you want to go solo? Where do you want to go? It gives you the options. You pick and choose. You make a decision. Then it gives you a price. You say, hey, can you find me a better price? It goes online, searches for all the options. It tells you the right price. You say, hey, lock it, but can you answer me some other questions? Do I need a visa? Do I need currency? Almost like an offline travel agent. And that's the interface that most Indians are comfortable with. And AI allows us to build that real e-commerce journey that India needs. The other problem is trust. Now, the way India operates on trust is that trust is localized. We trust a particular person, we trust a particular agent, because we know this guy doesn't do wrong by me. AI allows us to make that trust scalable. Let me give an example there. My dad is about 70 years old, and I'm always worried that he'll buy something fraudulent, he'll buy something that is missold to him, he'll get into something that he doesn't need at all. So I tell him, whenever you make an expensive purchase, just give me a call. Now, AI allows me to put something that is smarter than me right in his own pocket. So when he's making a purchase, he can ask an AI agent, hey, is this the right purchase for me? Is this the right insurance policy for me? Is this the right financial investment for me? And it can tell my dad that, hey, don't buy this or buy this. Right? And that allows us to make trust scalable. I can imagine in the next 1 or 2 years, every one of us will have an AI agent who can shop for us, who can compare prices for us, who can choose the right interfaces for us, and who can tell us that, hey, don't buy from here. This looks like a fraudulent platform, or this looks like somebody's mis-selling you an insurance scheme that you don't really need. And India has already shown the world that we are adopting these things faster than anyone else. We had Sam speak a couple of days back that India is their second largest market with 100 million plus users. We had Dario speak about how India is their second largest market for Claude. We have 3x faster voice AI adoption because, as I said earlier, we are voice first. Even a lot of local companies are doing this. Like we have seen Bajaj Finserv talk about in their earnings call how they are using AI agents to make sales. We had Seco using AI to create videos for people to solve their day-to-day problems. We have JAR using AI to deliver financial advice to people at the bottom of the pyramid. We have Vodafone Idea, which is now has an AI agent inside their app, which can answer questions about the right kind of package to use, the right kind of recharge to use, and then buy it for them, almost like an offline retail agent. Let's look at the Vodafone example closely, something we have recently launched with them. By the way, this is already live. This is live on a Vodafone app today. And this is just an example of something simple. You can ask it all sort of complex questions that, hey, I use data more, I use voice more, I do a lot more international calls, and it can find the right package, and then you can purchase it right there. I want to show you something else, something we launched just today afternoon with Swiggy, Zomato, and Zepto. This is again live with NPCI on Claude today. So now when you want to buy grocery, you can ask it questions that, hey, I don't want this brand, I want this brand, I want your healthier brand. It can choose all the options that you want, and then you can make a purchase right then and there. And this is just a starting point. India is India has shown the world that we can be the playbook for the entire global south. When we looked at UPI, because of the success of UPI, now real-time payments are taking up in entirety of global south. I believe we have the similar opportunity with agentic commerce, because entirety of global south has the same problems that I spoke about that agentic commerce solves. We are all voice first, we are all multilingual, we all need assisted interfaces. So if we can build something in India and pilot it here, we can take it to the rest of the global south. And we have an opportunity to build an ecosystem here. So in the last 1 year, we have built with multiple partners to get where we are today. But it's going to be a long journey. Agentic commerce is going to be the next fundamental disruptive change in the way commerce happens in this country. And we all will work together to build it in the right way. So let's build it together. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Mathur, for sharing the work and the vision of Razorpay with Agentic AI. AI Summit in 2025 to the AI Impact Summit in 2026, I would like to invite on stage our host, Ms. Navya, Data Exchange and Government Specialist at UNDP, who will be leading a fireside chat with Mr. Lionel Regard, CEO of Qubitsoft. Okay. Also in conversation with us is Mr. Gautier Clocks, CEO of Edge Company. Please give a huge round of applause for our next speakers. Designed to integrate directly into operational workflows across sectors such as healthcare, infrastructure, public services, and industry.
Hi, everyone. So great to be here. This is the last fireside chat for real this time around. So we'll keep this relatively relaxed, just a quick fireside chat to get a sense of what's really going on in the AI space beyond the hype. For some context, my name is Navya. I work as a data exchange and governance specialist with the Digital AI and Innovation Hub at UNDP. And I'll hand over to Gautier for an introduction of himself and the wonderful work that he does.
Yeah, for sure. So really nice to meet you all. I'm a bit exhausted. I've been running for 10 minutes to get on time to this panel, and I was a bit late. So I'll try to wind down. But yeah, I'm Gautier. I've spent the past 15 years of my life deploying AI in large corporations in Europe, in the US. I spent 10 years at Palantir Technologies in the US, and then I started the offices in France and Europe. And I was a bit frustrated at the end by not being able to deploy as quickly and as efficiently as I wanted AI in companies. So we started Edge Company a year ago in France. We did the biggest fundraising ever of the history of Europe, 220 million in seed, $220 million, with a team of people from Palantir, from Meta, from Google, from our colleagues at Mistral, and so what was frustrating, do you know what was the issue of the deployment of the first waves of AI in enterprise? The main issue was a lot of money was spent by big corporations over the past 2 years with not a lot of measurable ROI. So like a lot of projects taking a long time, technical projects that are hard to build. And so the first wave that I saw was a wave of LLMs plus RAG, so like chatbots that connect to enterprise data. So you can ask questions about your company. So it's useful, but it's not really bringing a lot of value that you can measure to the company. It's a bit of productivity, maybe. The second wave were agents. So agents, you plug the LLMs to APIs, so to interfaces of the existing environment of the company. So it can be a government, can be a company. So that was what I was doing in my previous job. The main issue with that is that a lot of legacy companies have legacy IT, so IT from the 80s, from the 90s, with little APIs. And it takes a long time to connect one by one to dirty data, to old software. So it's very hard to do it, and it takes like years. And what we've built is what we call the third generation of AI. So it's basically what we call virtual humanoids. They can do anything that a human can do in a couple of seconds. You don't have to connect them to Excel and SAP and Salesforce and all the tools that you are using, because they are using the front end, so meaning the user interface that everybody is using. And we've built AI models that are so far the best in the world right now, if you look at the rankings. So it's very specialized, it's very niche, but they are the best at interacting with software. So clicking, scrolling, even if they've never seen the software before. So the big change of paradigm is that now it's very quick to deploy. It takes a couple of hours to deploy these models. There is no need for clean data, no need for clean APIs. And I realize I'm very long and you're smiling at me, so maybe I should go to the next question. I've introduced you to Edge Company, what we are doing, and also where I come from.
Thanks so much, Gautier. We also have here Lionel, who runs a business where he deploys quantum as a service. Lionel, do you want to tell us a little bit about your company, how it came about, the idea behind it?
Yeah, of course. Thank you very much for having me here. So I'm Lionel Rigaud, and CEO and co-founder of Qubitsoft, a quantum as a service company. So usually when we talk about quantum, people just want to jump by their window because they think it's complicated. Our purpose is to be able to take this seemingly complicated stuff and make it useful for the companies now, not in 5 years, but now and today. So I have a past. I worked about 25 to 30 years in AI. And 4 years ago, I decided to go to the next level, which is quantum computing. So what we're doing is we're creating a quantum as a service platform, which hosts quantum applications, which are business use cases applications, Like these companies who don't know anything about quantum, who don't want to buy complicated infrastructure, who just wants to use it and to have to leverage the quantum computing power today to increase their business value, their overall efficiency, can do it. Just in a nutshell. I don't know if you want more explanation, if it's okay.
Thank you so much, Lionel. So the question to both of you is, we're at an AI summit and everyone is talking about AI. So what do you think is genuinely the promise of AI in the businesses that you both run, and what do you think is overhyped? Or is that a tough question? I know we said this will be relaxed.
I think it's a very good question. No, I think there is a lot of hype, right? Like, if you look at how many companies are doing AI for companies, the enterprise AI that I work with. So it's interesting because I start to see a shift from, like, I talk to a lot of CEOs of big companies, and before they were like, okay, you should speak to my AI specialist, or you should speak to the technical team. Now I see a shift where they want to have these discussions, CEOs, CFOs, because hype is just like putting new tools. Oh, there is a new tool, there is a 20% adoption, there is a new tool, there is an 80% adoption. Adoption is not really a mean of doing anything, it's results that you are looking for. So what I'm telling these CEOs is, you need to ask for real ROI that you can measure. If you put 10 million in AI, you need to ask the company that is taking this 10 million, do I get 100 million? How can I measure it? What do I do if I don't get these 100 million? Or if we talk about non-financial ROI, we started to deploy our technology in a couple of hospitals in India. And the ROI here is saving lives, is decreasing the waiting time in the emergency room. These are the things that you can also create with AI. But you need to always measure and be very clear about what you are trying to do. Otherwise, you're going to end up with like 500 different AI tools that are going to be hype, that are going to be fun to use, but that are not going to create ROI. And I think companies that are focusing on hype might not be there, you know, in 2 years. But companies that are focusing on real results in real life that you can measure, I think so.
Thank you. Lionel?
Yeah, I totally agree with what Gauthier said, because today, but in quantum, it's a bit the opposite. Today, I think all the companies in want to have AI, some for good reasons, other for the hype. The one who want to have AI for the hype won't be there, won't last long. In quantum, it's the opposite, because people are afraid of quantum computing, like I said, because they think it's complicated. We have to tell them it's not hype, it's not complicated. You can do it now, and you have use cases where you can win money, where you can have a small ROI, even on the existing quantum computers. There are a lot of existing quantum computers in every country. I saw someone, a vendor yesterday in India, where you could use this power to leverage and to win money. And so this is the real purpose, and the real common point is to find the use case where you can win money, either on AI, just on AI it will be to find the good use case and not do everything, and on quantum to find the good use case so that you can win this money. And I think the second question was why we were on the Indian AI Summit. For us, it's important to tell people that use cases exist in quantum, use cases exist in AI, and the most important thing is that people adopt them, use them, and know them to increase their overall value. And this is the real message we want to pass on in this summit.
Thank you, Lionel. One quick follow-up question. There is a lot of conversation around use cases at the summit, like you pointed out as well. And you mentioned something about a good use case. So in your, when you work, how do you identify what a good use case is, which sector might be worth investing in, and how it will scale and adopt?
The first thing to find a good use case is not to talk technique. If you talk technique at the beginning, it's a bad use case. You have to talk tech 5 minutes, so people in front of you know what can be done, have an idea of all the scope of what you can solve. But then you have to talk business. What are the pain points? What can we expect to win? what do we have in-house? Because if you have bad data, you'll have bad AI or bad quantum. It's the same thing. So the main point is to have a business review, a company review, to find the pain points where you can have the good ROI. So not technical people, but more business people who know technical stuff.
And Gautier, do you have any thoughts? How did you decide to work in the sector that you do?
Yeah, so to us, we are here to help competitivity of companies. So making them more efficient, making sure they don't disappear because they are replaced by someone that is using AI. So that's all the financial ROI. So we focus on what humans are doing today, but that they don't really want to do. So like if you take the example of a nurse in an emergency room, usually between countries it's 60 or 70% of the time that she's going to spend or he's going to spend in front of a computer, clicking, scrolling, going from one software to another. And if you ask them, they want to spend time with patients. So removing humans where they don't have a real big value and putting them back to where they have a big value, I think is like what drives our use case generation. So, and the other thing is, can we measure the ROI? If we can't, it's really difficult to know if you're going to be useful. So I talked to you about a healthcare example, but we obviously have other examples, like a salesperson. It's almost the same thing. It's like 50 to 60% in front of their computer. So you remove that. The agents are doing that. And they can spend more time in front of customers, launching new markets, helping the company to be more profitable and more sustainable. And the last element that I would add to that is we are making AI that is 100 times cheaper to run, so also 100 times most energy and environmentally friendly. And we think it's very important because if you build bigger and bigger and bigger models, maybe they're going to be able to tell you about the history of the King of France in 1000 in Hindi. But what we need here in companies is just a tool that can do anything that a human can do in a company. So that's also what we focus on.
Thank you so much, Gautier. I want to double click on something that you said and just take it from there. How do you then move from research to real world deployment? And you run a business, so what kinds of challenges are you seeing when you can see the potential from the research and then you're thinking about how this is going to be deployed in the real world?
Yeah, it's a very tough question, and the question you're asking me is the question I'm asking myself almost every day, maybe every week. We have a big research team, as I was mentioning, so I think it's like the second or third biggest research team in France for AI of a private company. And so researchers have a lot of ideas, but you need to run a business. If you just run a business and tell your researchers, okay, you need to do that and focus on that and do nothing else, A, you're not going to have the best researchers in the world. They're going to go to like other places. And B, you're going to miss some opportunities. Someone who stayed, late in a weekend and had a good idea and just like went on it. So it's really a balance. What I'm saying to teams is, roughly like do 60-40, do 60% of the things that you are sure are useful for the company, and 40% that I'm not sure, but at least there is a possibility that it's useful for the company. So we do that through a lot of different ways. For instance, like you do a hack day or hack week where everybody can do whatever they want, and then you come back to real business. And then it's important to really look at what's happening out of research. So for instance, once a researcher invented a no-prompt AI, so you don't have to tell anything to the AI. And I was like, oh wow, I've never heard that before. So the agent is just looking at the screen, and you navigate on a website. You arrive on a form. It's like, oh, my user is on a form. I'll fill it because I have the necessary information. So you don't have to say, can you please fill this form? So that was like a good idea, right? And that came out of like out of a meeting or a strategy, but just out of the brain of someone. So I think it not only applies to researchers, the question you're asking me, but more and more to humans in general, because AI are going to be doing things that are, sort of like that we were doing before. So we should focus on these sort of skills, I think.
Thank you, Gautier. Lionel, do you have any thoughts about that? How do you move from research to deployment?
Yeah, it's a big deal in quantum computing because it's really just new. New computers come out every day, new technologies come every day. And it is really what said Gautier earlier, because we have a team almost exclusively of PhDs, used to search, used to have, before going somewhere, an extensive view of everything that was done, and they want to be sure that they saw every possibilities. We have a business to run, so this is not the question. And I have often to tell them, wait, I just want today, our customer wants this use case, he wants it solved. He wants it solved on a use case apps that can be deployed, that can be reused. I just need one path to solve the problem. If you find one path, and this path is good, and this path is efficient, I don't want you to look at all the other possibilities. Once you have it, it works, you're sure it's the most efficient, don't waste your time, and go on to the next one. And this is really the most important thing. But on the other side, we created a specific lab where people have several days a month to look at what they want, to be sure they stay at the top of the science, at the top of what is made.
Thank you so much, Lionel. We'll switch gears a little bit now. We have members in the audience and at the summit who are budding entrepreneurs or who are students. What kinds of skills and capacity building exercises do you recommend that they invest in, or even the governments invest in, to be able to keep up with whatever is happening now, both from a education standpoint as well as any advice for budding entrepreneurs that are really looking to take ideas and then make that into an AI startup? Once again, I know we said we'll keep this relaxed, but I feel like all of my questions are
No, they are very relaxed.
relaxing.
I confirm that. I'm happy to. What? Okay. So, I think in terms of what I see, I think AI is going to take a lot of hard skills that were done by junior people. So like jobs that used to be safe, accounting, legal. If you start now in a junior position, a lot of things that juniors were doing are going to be done by AI. So I think that the shift is moving towards soft skills are becoming more and more important. Empathy, so like we'll always like to have humans in front of us for a lot of things. Creativity, AI can be creative, but the agency, the intention that you give AI is very often coming from humans. We have roughly 5 billion years of evolution that brought us to where we are. So we have a lot in advance from AIs who have like a couple of years. Also, the sense of agency, it's something that when I hire people in my company, and we get a lot of people applying, so it's very competitive. One thing that I'm looking at is not like are they the best in AI skills, but it's more, do they have agency? So they face a problem. Will they try many ways to solve it? Will they, go through the window if the door is closed? Like, one thing that I say, maybe it's not politically correct, but I'll say it, is people that don't really follow the rules, AI are going to follow the rules. Like the rules can be very different, but they're going to follow that. And not following the rule, I'm not saying to do things illegal every day, but if you want to create new things, sometimes you have to break the rules and create a new paradigm. So I think that's also very important. Jobs that are just following rules and executing, I think are not going to be there very long with AI. So I'd say that, and also I think it's. I remember at Christmas I was with my grandfather, who is 95 years old, who is in very good shape. He's drinking a lot of wine. He was making wine in France, so I encourage you to drink a little bit of wine if you want to be. And he was like witnessing me doing work from his house for 2 days, and I was on my computer and I was talking to people. He's like, "But you haven't worked. You've been talking to people. You've been laughing. You've been like, it's not work." Like for him, work was going in the fields and cutting things and like doing real things, not being in a nice heated environment and speaking to nice people. And so I think if in 50 years we'll probably have the same situation as of today. We'll be looking at our grandkids and being like, "Oh, but you don't really work. You're never in front of a computer." I'm not sure we'll use a mouse or a keyboard in 10 years. I'm actually pretty sure that won't exist anymore, because that was the old way to interact with computers. So we'll be doing all these other things that I think are going to be alone or together, but like very human. So do focus on that. I think yeah.
Thank you so much, Gautier. Over to you, Lionel.
Yeah, I say the first thing is not to be scared of AI. People often say jobs will be replaced by AI. It's not true. Jobs will be, people who don't use AI will be replaced by people who use AI.
Yes.
And this is really important. So first point is to know how to use AI, first thing. Second thing is not to forget A, artificial. So it's not real intelligence. AI just gives back what it learned. It usually what it learned was given by a human person. So you have to keep this in mind. AI won't think the same way as you do today. But if you only follow specific rules, which are the same rules which were made 10 years, 30 years, 50 years ago, yes, in this case, you may be replaced by AI. So you just have to have a new type of skill set, which is I'm going to dream, I'm going to propose new solution, I'm going to have new ideas, and this is something AI won't be able to do. When I teach some of my students at the end of the class or the end of the course, I say, dream big, because this is what is going to change the thing. Last of all, and this is even more true in quantum computing, focus on fundamental skills, math, physics, science, because those are the skills on which we can build anything, the skills on which you can learn how to use any AI tool, and this is the skills where AI can't replace you, because those are the fundamental skills. And with this, you'll be able to do everything. If you focus on using one tool, this tool will be obsolete in 5 years. And if you know only to use this tool, you'll be obsolete in 5 years. So don't be scared of AI. Learn how to use it, but the big base is fundamental tools and the human soft skills.
Thank you so much, Lionel. That's great advice, both Lionel and Gautier. We have one last question, and I think the burning question across various panels at different summits is, what does meaningful ROI look like from AI? And I know it means different things to different stakeholders, but as business people and people running great AI companies, what does meaningful ROI look like? I promise this is the last question.
It depends. Meaningful ROI for AI will depend on what you want to do with. So first of all, it's to find the use case, and a human has to decide what will be the ROI. If you say, I'm going to put an AI and see what it does, it won't work. If an ROI in a hospital is to have nurses focus on their nurse job and not do administrative stuff, this is a good ROI. If an AI helps cure a certain illness because he will save time for a doctor, and the doctor will focus on his skills, not on computer skills, but on his skill, which is his mind analyzing. This is a good ROI. So all this, it's not only money, just to say I'm going to win. Money is important because this is what makes corporation grow and live. But money is made because you give a service, and this is really the basis. So AI has to give this service, but so help people give this service, and it won't replace people in a notch like this.
Thank you so much, Lionel. Over to you, Gautier. You have the last word on this.
Okay, so yeah, ROI. I see a couple of hands. ROI is obviously depending on industry. But what we see, so I took the example of like decreasing by 2 the waiting time in the emergency room. It's very easy to measure. If it's there, it's there. If it's not there, it's not there. If we look at businesses, so procurement, decreasing by 3, 4, 5%, the bill of like everything that a company purchases, because you have agents looking for the best prices, looking for a lot of things that make buying cheaper. That's very easy to measure as well. If you look at customer service, obviously the end ROI is the customer happy, but you can think of not just like one thing that we are seeing is our customers always want to automate or create more efficient processes for what they are doing, which is great. It's usually what we start to work on when we work with them. But the next phase is doing things that they couldn't do before, just because AI is there and you can do new things. So if you take customer service, for instance, do you want to realize in the morning that your Wi-Fi is not working and start to mess with the box and then call the customer service and be transferred to like 5 different places? Or do you want an agent that, every 5 minutes looks at your internet connection and say, okay, it's up, and realizes that at 3 a.m. it's down, does all the diagnostics, at 4 a.m. realizes that you need to change your device, and at 5 a.m. there is a new device that is being sent to your home. These are the sort of things that customer service are moving towards. If you have, you bought a lot of companies in a lot of different places, usually we see that it's very difficult to integrate these systems together, so you run multiple companies. We have an example of a big, publicity company. They had to create a campaign for like every country that they were working on. Now they are doing real-time marketing, so maybe they see you at UNDP saying something, and the next minute there will be an ad link to that. Probably more like a football player score goals or cricket player. These sort of things are things that you couldn't do before because AI wasn't there. So it's very dependent on the businesses, but the common point is it's really focused on expanding the strategy of the company and creating a strategic asset. Not just a new tool that you put on your desk and maybe you clean your desk and you put it in the cupboard and you lose it, but a strategic asset that is part of the core of the company. Maybe one last example for airplanes. I worked on a tool that is now being sold in a lot of airlines to not just buy airplanes, but also buy predictive maintenance, routing, a lot of things that AI can help. So if you manufacture aircraft, tomorrow maybe you manufacture AI that helps you operate these aircrafts. So these are the change of paradigm that we are seeing.
That's pretty fascinating, Gautier. Thank you so much, Gautier and Lionel, for your great insights on the panel. We're almost at time. Thank you everyone for coming by and staying around. I hope you are having a good time at the summit, and we'll conclude and not keep you hostage here anymore. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lionel and Gautier, for sharing your perspective on the potential of AI across businesses. Thank you, Manya, for most efficient moderatorship. I think you can stand for a picture. Impact Summit. I thank you all for your attention and your patience with us. We have much more in plan for you for the upcoming days, and I encourage you all to stay engaged and stay innovative. Thank you.